Today I want to get into a sasaeng that apparently followed Jungkook home. I want to get into a sasaeng apparently saying that V was dating someone at the airport, and then Suga talked about a career change. So hey Dumplings, it's Dave Desai. Hater or not, make sure you're subscribed with the notification bell on. Grab your dumpling, taste building mug merch, and let's go. We need to talk about a couple of recent alleged sasaeng moments. There were reported moments where allegedly a stalker reported on exactly where Jungkook lived, and they're reporting on letting the community know that they could end Jungkook's life. And this I think is very strange and odd for someone to say, because making threats and saying you'll kill someone is illegal, because someone did some research on the alleged person and found the phone number used for this account that was saying all this, and that number was not someone in Seoul. So even if you did know exactly where Jungkook lived, you can't really reach him fast enough before the cops could get her. It seemed like someone who was just pretending for attention, which makes me so mad, because what's the point of all this? Absolutely nothing. Like, I can understand someone like Sojang, the K-pop gossip channel, creating speculation and doing all the things she is accused of doing, because she probably makes money. But someone who is threatening to kill Jungkook and gets attention from that, you can't monetize those types of videos anywhere. You can't expect to make any money from that. And then you just get arrested, because if I called the cops right now and say that someone is threatening my life and says they know my address, the police will be all over that. I think it's important to acknowledge these types of things and maybe look into it briefly, but definitely don't engage and definitely don't blow it up. That's exactly what they're looking for and hoping would happen. And then others will follow, as in other crazy people see that this person is getting attention and they want to do it too, because apparently they're not hugged enough as a child and need this type of attention. This has brought up the question of whether or not there is a lot of Jungkook private information that exists on the internet. One of the most recent concerns was one that involved Jungkook getting a mansion. So if you're unaware, it was reported that Jungkook bought this piece of land with maybe a home already there, and he completely tore it down and then is having it rebuilt. And it's supposed to be like a $6 million mansion. This was reported by various sites, and every time someone mentioned that, it's, how do you know that? Are you a sasaeng? Claiming that the information is incorrect and that if you know, that you're leaking private information. Saying that Jungkook never said this information, so if you know, then you're a stalker. And what's funny is people aren't claiming the information is incorrect. That would make sense. Saying, well, it never came out of Jungkook's mouth, so we don't know the accuracy, don't spread it, but people are calling others stalkers. And this is just a method to shut people up, because the people claiming this don't want to believe that Jungkook is rich and untouchable. They want to continue to believe that Jungkook is within their reach, and they can't even believe that Jungkook is on a whole other level. And when I say whole other level, I'm not saying a step up above most of us. I think the statistic is like 1,700 people a day become millionaires, and a lot of people with maybe somewhat middle class or higher salaries would reach millionaire status when they retire if they had put money into their retirement fund when they started their career, which most office jobs encourage you to do. And I say this to say that being a millionaire is still hard, but you're not even that, like most of us still. Then what Jungkook is like is 30 levels even above millionaire status. So yes, he can afford a mansion, and no, he is not reachable to the mass majority of people. The boys' careers have always been crazy, and they have to constantly straddle this line between trying to appear like your friend versus being the celebrity that they are. And I think a lot of the K-pop fans hate American celebrities because they don't feel the American celebrity is anyone that is touchable. But neither of them are touchable, especially now that K-pop groups are more popular than the American ones. It also puts a lot of pressure on the boys, and I can see why they may opt for a less stressful, less stalker-attracting career. Suga a while ago was doing an interview with IU and talked about how he actually passed up an acting script when it was given. Many people were sad because this meant that Suga could not ever act. However, at the time, BTS was still active as a group, and it didn't make sense for Suga to pursue those things. They also allegedly had a rule that a member on their own cannot appear in videos by themselves. However, recently Suga was on his own show, Suchita. He actually talked about acting. He talked about possibly giving acting a shot or a chance if he ever got a chance to do it, instead of passing the offer or even if he knew that Hybe would say no, he would still respond saying it's his decision to say no if he didn't want to. So since he is considering it, I take it that he is allowed now and that he is very interested. He did a great job acting in his music videos, and he is literally a different person. Good acting looks natural, right? In the videos, you believe that he is a criminal and a mastermind, and then you have to remember that Suga is actually very sweet and timid in real life. So a lot of this stuff is entirely acting, and also his music videos very much appear like a K-drama. People were then saying that Suga might be done with music and would prefer to only act, and I definitely do not agree with that. I think music is his passion. I think music is what he's really good at, and if he does choose to do acting, it'll be acting for a season, and then he'll be back to music, unless he really hated music to begin with. Then he won't come back, but he seems to really love it. But also, acting is something a lot of artists choose to do eventually. A lot of them stick to it. It's just an easier way to stay relevant and in the spotlight without having to do much touring and all this other stuff. You can also potentially make more money. You get a flat out rate of like tens of millions of dollars and only be on set for like a month. And then you don't have to negotiate a huge label cut. Most agencies and managers take 20%, while labels can take like 90%. But I think BTS's deal is like 50-50. I'm not entirely sure. But most importantly, acting is less stressful on the body, and it's just a bit easier. Nothing is easy, but if you tour for a year straight, you'll probably never want to travel again. The boys travel so much they probably would never need to travel again in their life, and still do more traveling than an entire stadium people would ever do in their life. Taeyang recently came back from Paris, and people were saying that Dispatch was leaking Taeyang and Jungkook together. I saw some photos that appear edited, but I didn't see Taeyang and Jungkook together in any videos, so I actually don't know if they were together or not. Some were saying that Dispatch was confirming that Taeyang and Jungkook were dating. If you are not aware, it was believed Dispatch had leaked the two being lovers. Dispatch apparently posted a video where Taeyang and Jungkook were at an event together, and they posted the two men hand-holding emoji. We can all infer what this means. However, I think people need to take in consideration Dispatch is a Korean tabloid company. They are pandering to the public and whatever will get them more attention. They already know that Taeyang and Jungkook alleged ship is going to drum up attention, because if the two were actually dating, why would Dispatch not just straight up say it, like they do with other couples? And if Hybe really did have a relationship with Dispatch, which is why Dispatch never leaks dating rumors of the boys, then why add the hand-holding emoji? That alone would then give Hybe a reason for litigation. So it just makes no sense that they're doing that as a dating thing rather than them just doing that to pander to an audience. Another rumor that came about when someone said that there was a black van that picked Taeyang up from the airport and then claimed that it was the same black van that dropped Taeyang off. I guess to imply that Jungkook was likely in that van and that it seemed like the two must be married or dating because of that. That makes zero sense to me. Why would someone being picked up in a van imply dating? Wouldn't that just mean that the company has a designated person who picks people up, and they would obviously use the same van to pick people up? The company likely has personal drivers they hire. The company does order an Uber every time the artist leaves the airport or needs to go somewhere. The van likely could also have been the manager's, and again was just picking Taeyang up. And then even if Taeyang got into the van and then they went and picked Jungkook up, that still doesn't imply dating. It just means that the same car from the same label just wanted to be efficient and picked up two people that were also close friends and probably would not have mind being in the same van. If Taeyang and Jungkook both were not in a rush, it makes no sense for the driver to drop Taeyang off and then head back to an airport and pick Jungkook up. So of course a lot of this stuff doesn't make sense, and I always think that people aren't necessarily using their brain when they speak about this. The two, even if they were in the same car, were definitely not kissing or being married, and we don't have any evidence of this. Let me know what you think. Make sure you check out my Patreon for more videos, link down below. Thanks for this lovely comment right here. Love you, bye.